Hello and welcome back to MDG Media. This is round 2 back 9 MPO lead card coverage of the 2024 Belgian Open. I'm Connor Wood, and with me, Elias Luukkonen.
What's up, Connor? Nice to be here once again. After that front 9, we had a switch in the lead. Silver Lätt no longer the leader in the tournament, but rather Teemu Lampainen after a great front 9, going 5 under on the more difficult of the two 9s.
No doubt, and you can see that there is no room to slow down here with such a stacked field. You see the current standings as we go into hole 10, that 5 under through the front 9 from Teemu. Nestori doing great to tie himself with silver at 12 under with his 3 under front 9, and Daniel right on their heels, as well as a lot of fantastic players pushing that top 20 position. The scores are still pretty close, and going into the third round, anything could happen.
Yeah, for sure, especially we have these wet, muddy conditions. Some people are struggling with the water, but honestly, best players not so much, as we're moving on to one of the easier par 4s. On the back 9, also on the whole course. Hole 10, completely open off the tee. Only thing you need to avoid is this hazard bubble. You need to stay right of it or short of it. There's also an OB line right and left if you're really off your mark. And really, once you have thrown that normal hyzer just next to the hazard, you only have about 80 meters left.
No doubt, not a particularly demanding hole, quite a generous fairway, even with that hazard cutout. And Daniel has boomed this. Way long of the hazard. That is at least 160, if not almost more in straight distance. He needs to, of course, find some leftwards movement now, but doing more than is required of him, showing off some of that power. This is the more traditional placement shot from Silver, just a one-angle overstable hyzer.
Yeah, super aggressive play from Daniel there, although he's a player that is the most comfortable with the hard thrown driver shots, so that's not as surprising as for some other players. You can see Teemu here just playing the normal shot. It's gonna be in the middle of the fairway, just having a hyzer shot from there. It's really a hole that no matter what you do off the tee, you really want to have at least a chance at a putt.
No doubt. The more you can end to the right side of the fairway, the more your angle will open up. You see a lot of these overstable hyzers, such as Nestori's here, ending to the left side fairway. He will be quite pinched. Teemu, though, wide enough to have an open look, you see here. And a lot of players will try and dig this green and find a skip for those last 5 or so meters. He doesn't get it all the way up to the top, but in the circle for birdie. Silver shaping a beautiful flex approach.
Yeah, that's well done from Silver, who is definitely more of a forehand dominant player. He would rather approach with that forehand anywhere in the open. And Nestori there, nice shot, I believe, with the slammer he was throwing earlier. And Daniel with obviously just a pitch to the basket. Couldn't be much easier on the approach.
No doubt. We go to Teemu here. He's been solid on the greens. Putting looking very clean, and he's done it again there. You touched on this. His putt really crashing into the chains, falling down towards the end.
Yeah, and Teemu, I feel like he has a good power transfer to the disc, as it looks like his arm is moving pretty slow, but the disc is going very fast, as we saw Silver there, making a not a perfect putt, but that might get him going after the slow front 9. Really, this hole 10 and the next hole 11 are crucial birdies to get your back 9 started on the right foot.
Totally agree, and I think that that's a sign of a lot of the best putters, is that slow movement and good sequencing and timing to create the lag and produce the spin without moving the body very quickly. They can create a lot of speed on the putter. As we see the scores continuing to push ahead in this tightly packed field. Another very gettable birdie here on hole 11 at 85-meter, softly uphill par 3 with OB lining the left and right. Although not coming into play very often, the real obstacle to finding the birdie here is controlling the height and nose angle. You see this late low ceiling given by the branches. A lot of players will crash these trees and end up about circle's edge. If you're fortunate enough to have the height right, you can slide all the way up, but that 6 to 10 meter range for a putt is a very common result, catching the tree line.
For sure, and this is Not only is it an incredibly easy hole by scoring average, it would be pretty much the easiest hole on any other course that we play on tour, averaging with 2.58 strokes. That is insanely low for an average for a par 3. And Daniel might be in trouble of raising that average, and Silver as well. Neither of them really have great chances at a birdie putt.
Absolutely. With that sloping fairway, if you get it even a little bit too low, you're going to dig the fairway early on and cut off some of that distance. And inversely, you get it a bit too high and you're just not going to find the gap that you need to be close. Teemu as well with quite a difficult placement, although he'll have a long look at the birdie. He'll have a lot of trees left in his way. We'll see if Nestori can show us just how it's done here, opting for the overstable fairway skip shot into the green.
Yeah, that was a good shape there. Good shape there, even pulling it a little bit wide. Gonna be just 5 meters, and good chance to take a stroke on the card on a hole that you would really not expect that on. Unless, of course, Teemu or Daniel can make some great putts here.
And you saw he had to compromise his stroke a little bit to navigate the branches in front of him. Pulls it just a little bit. Daniel now with an opportunity off the knee, making the width there for himself, and finds high and right. Some frustration there. You can see what it means to these guys to not birdie hole 11.
And the bogey, that's gonna be one of the very few birdies on the day. I believe only 7 birdies throughout the entire field on this very easy hole number 11.
Do you mean bogeys, Elias?
Bogeys? What did I say?
So only 7 birdies throughout the round.
Oh, that's definitely...
Hopefully more than that.
Yeah, that was 51% of the field was birdieing this hole. So quite surprising to see our lead card play even par on this second easiest hole on the course.
But you do see this green is by no means offering you an open putt a lot of the time. Even a good shot or an average shot will still be obstructed with how many trees there are on the green. Danger can be found on every hole here in Braine-l'Alleud Disc Golf Park.
Yep, for sure. And all of a sudden Teemu only has a 1-stroke lead. We're moving on to, I would say it's the last really stressful hole on the course. Hole number 12, 157 meters, so not a long par 4, but a very tight par 4. You have about 100 to 110 meters of straight shot off the tee that you just need to hammer perfectly down the middle to get to the sweet spot. If you have a perfect drive, your approach is quite simple, just a straight putter, or you can even throw a wide forehand, only about 60 meters from the sweet spot to the basket. But if your drive is off, you're gonna be scrambling hard.
Nestori going with a fast disc and a nose-down backhand, finds it slightly early out of the hand, something that he's found a few times in the front nine as well. Not quite crispy on the release point of his drives. We'll see Daniel look to make the correction here. This is looking much nicer and a very pure shot down the middle. I think that's right in the sweet spot he wants to be.
Yeah, well done. If he had gotten even 15 meters more of distance, he would be fully open. Now he will have a gap to contend with, but still a drive you would take any day of the week. And Silver as well. Even though he hit some trees, he will potentially have a forehand Anheuser look to the green. Gonna be a very aggressive shot. And Teemu, interestingly enough, going with a standstill forehand.
I can appreciate that, reducing the variables required in his shot to try and make sure he hits the tunnel. He does drag it a little bit left, although I like simplifying the shot here if you have the power. It is only about 100 that you need to get to the sweet spot for an open look. If you're comfortable with that on the standstill, might be beneficial. We see what he's left with here, shaping the Anheuser forehand into the opening to attack the second tunnel to the green.
Yep, both Nestori and Teemu will have good looks for the par there. Let's see if Silver is going through the Anheuser gap with a forehand. That's very well done. Oh my gosh, just hitting the last tree. He had the perfect shape on it. Really from that far back it's hard to navigate through the couple of last trees. And Daniel, that's just not committed. Didn't quite choose the gap that he wanted to hit, and Now he's scrambling on the left. Gonna be a long putt for the par after the best drive of the group.
Teemu's third here. He too finds the late obstacle on his way to the green. Will be left in circle 2 for a long par save. Looking downhill. It can be pretty treacherous behind the basket if you airball it. I see a good slowdown for Nestori there.
And Daniel still struggling in the bushes. Just trying to pitch it through with that Anheuser forehand. Well done there. Even missing one of the last trees to leave himself with an inside look. And Teemu, that's gonna sting. That's gonna sting a little bit. You know, he's normally very good with those forehand approaches, and this time just not able to get up and down.
Silver high and right on that release. Fortunate to find the tree behind the basket, keep him close. As we see the dangers of hole 12 shown here by our lead card.
Yep, it is the 4th most difficult hole on the course. Only 9% of the field getting a birdie and more bogeys than pars. It's a hole that you're very happy if you walk away with a par.
And Elias, what was the birdie percentage here on 12? How much of the field was able to find the elusive 3?
It was only 9%, so not many people finding the birdie. It's definitely one that you will get a stroke on if you caught that birdie. As we see a new name near the top, Kevin Consor, not somebody that we see quite often.
Strong player from Central Europe coming out of Germany, has all the skills to compete at the top, and he's proving that here today at the Belgian Open. We move on to hole 13, a 75-meter downhill par 3 with this triple mando. This structure really forcing players to control their height. As you come through, you have these few small trees to beat on your way to the green. With OB long and to the right side, it's really crucial that you control the speed coming in and try to settle it on the ground before the basket, sliding on up. Anything that is in the air at the distance of the pin will often find them long OB. Nestori, I believe, not missing any mando, but not hitting the gap very cleanly.
Yeah, trying to go for the forehand to hit the gap a little bit better, but Silva able to do that. You can see he had the height perfect. Even with that quite a hard thrown shot, it was low enough to stick next to the basket. And looks like the forehand is the play for our group on this one.
Daniel, a great hyzer flip up to flat. Also fantastic speed control. See Teemu here.
I think this is the play that you see more throughout the entire field. That slight flex backhand, just not quite committed by Teemu. He's likely gonna have to lay up from here. It's a bit of a downslope all the way from the tee to the basket and even behind the basket.
Whoa!
Never mind, there's no layup needed here for Nestori. Look at this putt from 25 meters out.
Glide finds the hyzer at the right moment and sneaks it over the cage. Highlight putt for Nestori Tuhkanen. Fantastic stuff, showing us why he's made his way onto the lead card here in round 2.
Yeah, that was impressive. Able to keep that flat angle throughout the flight. Teemu looks to be lining just a layup. And that's nothing to blame him for. It's a scary putt to run, as Silver unfortunately missing another one.
Quite uncharacteristic of Silver. People speak a lot about his strength off the tee with the forehand particularly, but I think his circle 1 putting is also pretty underrated. In previous performances, we've seen him hit that 90+% C1 fairly regularly, and a little bit uncharacteristic for him to be missing putts just like that.
Yeah, he looks a little bit slow on the release right now. Not quite. The disc is not quite coming out as firm as you would like to see. I'm sure he's the best person to judge himself, and he is doing that exactly right now, I'm sure. As Nestori has actually pulled into the first position. Just like that, I feel like just a couple of holes ago, Teemu was still leading.
Oh my goodness! That just happened.
Insane, man. What a turn
happened.
of events here. Hammer time.
I got 41 feet for Gossage.
Now this is a straight up death putt here. It's a game of inches.
Your Portland Open champion, Adam Hannes.
What a show these guys put on for us today. Cannot believe it just came down to that.
And moving on to hole number 14, a surprisingly tricky par 4. Even though it's not too far, it's not too wooded, mostly open, you need to throw a nice right moving forehand off the tee. You're trying to follow this road that you're seeing off the tee, move pretty far to the right. A lot of drives that are looking good might actually find the long OB off the tee. And if you're in the sweet spot of the tee, you really have just a straight to hyzer shot to the basket. But a lot of times that's not quite the case, and you need to shape some weirder shots.
Definitely from the sweet spot, it's a forehand hyzer and then backhand hyzer. We will see him contend with that OB long, very common error to find, but he slows it down just in time, curling back in bounds. And I think we'll have an open to slightly hyzerish straight look. Daniel going with the aggressive roller line. A lot of holes on this course do have it as a possible line with that late left to right movement.
Yeah, Daniel, I believe, going with this super old champion crate, which he has been throwing for many years. It's a disc that he says rolls shorter the harder he throws it. Basically because it flips faster the harder he throws it. And you can see that there. Teemu even matching the roller with a great forehand there.
And Silver here, keeping it super inside, but often those are the shots you want. Sometimes the shots that don't look great off the tee are in an okay position. We'll see if Silver is pinched on the Mando corner. Nestori with the longest look does just play a full hyzer. That's very common, with the only dangers of this second shot being OB right and OB long. A lot of players will opt for the one angle hyzer just to ensure that they land in the fairway and end to the left.
And two approaches there, neither of them really as close as they would like to be. Daniel correcting on those two, well done. That's really what you want. It's a routine approach from the sweet spot. And Silver here, just putting it under the basket, knowing his putting struggles from previous holes. And let's see if either Teemu or Nestori can get a stroke on one another. Nestori having the chance now with kind of a weird pull to the right from Teemu.
And Nestori continuing to capitalize here, sitting at 7 under through 14. Great pace that he's setting here. And Teemu back to the green. He's right at the edge of the OB long there. It's not the barriers, but it's even a bit closer to that path. Maybe in his mind as he was going through that previous putt towards the OB, did look a little bit more timid than he has been earlier in this round.
Yeah, for sure. Teemu also being not one of the softest putters. He has some good pace on the putter, so anytime he airballs, he's gonna be at that 6, 7, 8 meter range on the other side. And just like that, Teemu has lost the lead, and even in a 2-stroke deficit right now.
We move on to hole 15 as we double back in the other direction, parallel to 14's fairway. It is a long, straight hole with a softly bending rightwards end to the fairway. Players will want to throw anything near this path that you see on the bottom of your screen, opening up the straight shot around the corner and into this green at 201 meters par 4. The best shots here will be going about, for these top players, 130 to 150 meters, opening up the look to the green, but you can throw maybe 120 or so to have a very reasonable look. Anything to the right side of the fairway will have trouble making it to the green, so ending left will really be advantageous.
And looks like that's exactly what Nestori is doing. Probably a little bit closer to the left OB line that he's comfortable with, but that's going to be okay and a good angle for the approach. Daniel more right, and this is in danger of being a little bit short right, so what he will have to do from there is either a very high backhand turnover or a high forehand spike hyzer.
Teemu has this turned over. He's going to look for it to finish left, but it can also just be far enough straight to have that open look, but really you need a lot of distance if you're going to turn it over and still want to have an open look. Silver here going to be shaping the forehand flex. Looks like a rive in his hands. And there's that path indicating an open look. He is also contending with OB, but in a fantastic spot.
And that's a big forehand from Silver. I think that was over 130 meters easily. Daniel there, keeping it tight enough for a look. Not quite parked. You can see how tricky it is from that short right side. Compared to these shots that Nestori has kind of left short. It looks like a chance for Teemu to get one of those strokes back.
Silver finding the stability in the flight a little bit too early. Fades out to about circle's edge, potentially just outside. Teemu left with this chip shot simply to the green. Making it look pretty simple, honestly, considering that this is an attackable par 4, but not one of the... Would you say this is one of the easiest par 4s, Elias?
For sure for these top players, and that's a good one from Silver. You can see he was probably a little bit frustrated with the last misses, putting some more power on that one. But yeah, this hole, for the further throwing players, it's definitely very manageable. Not much danger, and really why the field average is relatively high, only playing barely below par. I believe that's because we have a lot of different players in the field. Not all of them are throwing super far.
Absolutely. At these Silver Series events, it does open up for some less experienced touring players to come and play. But we see, even for these top guys, the birdie is still requiring some work there. Daniel tapping in his par. And Nestori maintaining his one-stroke lead over Teemu, who is currently 2 strokes over Kevin and Silver. Although Kevin having just finished his round, these guys have 3 more left.
And 16 is another very gettable hole. This is a hole that you will be a little bit disappointed if you don't give yourself a chance for the birdie on. Drive off the tee, you need to aim towards this middle tree and choose a side. You want to either be left of it or right of it. Most players trying to go right and get some good distance off the tee. Then on the approach you have the option of going for a wide backhand hyzer, either high or low, or some players even going for a forehand hyzer. It's a pretty simple hole, just need to get a good chunk of distance off the tee.
Yeah, you really can go left or right of that first tree, and this is smoked by Teemu, flipping the cameraman. He is almost jump putting here. That could well be 145, 150 meters through the gap. Really impressive tee shot that will leave him with a super simple approach. Silver, I think a fortunate branch there. That was fading right towards OB and the fairway of 17. Fortunate break that will leave him in a position still to birdie.
Yeah, for sure. And Nestori here, good looking line, just a little bit low. I believe he must have liked a little bit more distance, but even from there it's only about 90 meters, so not going to be much of a problem. And Daniel there, a very common tree to hit. Luckily kicking more to the right side, so he will have a good hyzer look to the basket.
Silver playing the full driver hyzer into the green. Great speed control there and use of the stability. Daniel likely going to be recreating that shape here.
Yeah, the forehand hyzer can feel a little bit more risky if you're not comfortable with it, as you have that OB closer on the left side of the basket, and you kind of have to fly towards the OB with the forehand hyzer. But these guys clearly having good control over it. Nestori just a short putt left, and look at this, Teemu about 40 meters to the basket. Easy chip shot, and he will have no stress for the birdie there.
Go to Daniel, the longest putt of the group. And he's good for it, finds himself the birdie. And this hole, certainly one of the most gettable, possibly the easiest par 4 on the course in terms of scoring. And you see that reflected here by these guys, really making light work of it.
And looks like we are gonna have a star frame on this hole. That's not as surprising as on some other hole, but it still does require some good approaches, some good drives. Well done by the cart. These are some pretty good scores in the weather that we're dealing with. You know, a lot of players were struggling with the mud, but our lead card, not really.
And the wind was on and off as well. You had to continuously gauge the conditions as you're throwing. It can even change between the time that you get to the tee and by the time you throw, requiring pretty constant evaluation. We moved to 17, a long par 3 at 139 meters. A lot of players will opt for a flexing shot that tries to fade back through this late gap that's probably about 125 meters through that you then have to hit the gap from. Very commonly, players will crash the trees and have a 10 to 15 meter look. If they can time that late fade through the gap and get the power, you can find your way into the circle. But one of the more difficult par 3s without a doubt.
Yeah, for sure, and just already for the fact that it's so long, and as you said, the gap is very late. A lot of players might be happy with not even hitting the gap. The right side woods on the right side of the gap are pretty forgiving, though this one is too far right. Might challenge the OB on that bush line, and he will be right on the line. We'll have to see whether he actually stayed in or not.
Absolutely. There is OB left and right, as well as long of the green if you miss a putt or really rip one through the gap. Nestori here, getting that nice long turnover to late stability, but also fading a touch early. That's a very common landing zone for what would be a good shot, right at about circle's edge.
And this year they did pull the basket a little bit shorter away from the hillside, so even from where Nestori is, we will likely see some sort of a run. As now there is a few meters of space, and look at this. Daniel, as I said, just barely missing the gap to the right, but those trees letting him filter through, and that's going to be one of the better birdies you can get on the entire course.
That's the best drive I've personally seen on 17 from Daniel there. Going to be picking that one up. I'm sure he'll be very pleased about that. Nestori, again with a chance to capitalize on a long look. He's been good for them throughout the day, and that one is just a touch too low. So we see the tap in birdie on 17. It's not too often you're going to see that. Well done, Daniel. As the rest of these guys tap in their pars. Silver, close to OB, looked as if he was safe.
Yep, seems like that was the case. And we're moving on to the last hole on the course. Hole number 18. A relatively simple hole, but tricky to judge the distance. You need to throw a nice big hyzer. You can choose your height. You can go a little bit higher if you want to park the basket. A lot of players going a little bit lower to just aim for that, 5 to 10 meter range. But it's tricky. The gap that you have to hit is only about 10 to 15 meters wide, and you have to move sideways to the gap. So easy to shoot this too far to the hillside or leave it to the short side bush.
Absolutely. I think a lot of players will try to match the slope, some of them opting to go even higher, like Daniel here, to ensure they get enough leftwards movement. And he almost chucks it in, absolutely pinned. Currently tied in third. He will be looking at another short birdie opportunity on 18 to close out a very strong round.
And I believe that putt with Daniel will be for his lead card position for round 3. So a little bit more of an incentive for him to make it. And look at that, Teemu with a strong finish. He's going to be at most one stroke back of Nestori, depending on where this shot goes.
We have another strong finish here.
And that's a little bit inside.
A common mistake, let's say, on that hyzer angle. You mentioned timing the fade, so important, and Silver with a very early release. That could very well be OB. The green opens up. Once you make enough distance up the fairway, the left side is in bounds, but early on, you see those white stakes just at the left side of your frame. That is an OB line. As pretty quickly, he just steps up and puts that one up there. Pretty routine shot for him on that Anheuser forehand.
Yeah, I think Silver is kind of over this round, shooting 12 under in round 1, and now he's going to be putting for an even par round. Not exactly what you want, but he's still in really good position in the overall scores. I believe 12 under is, I believe his gotta be tied for 6th place, which is not bad after shooting a, honestly a bad round for his standards.
No doubt. I mean, looking at the scores from last year's Belgian Open, averaging 6 to 8 per round is enough to put you at the top, at least in contention for winning. So 12 under, averaging effectively 6 under through these 2 rounds, still leaving him in a strong position.
And Teemu there with a nice birdie to finish. That's exactly what he wanted, and gonna be in a great position to get a big win. Teemu is a player that hasn't really had that international big win yet.
But certainly has the skill set and likely the mindset here as well of a champion. We'll see if he's able to find himself there after the 3rd and final round as we take a look at the scores. The lead card for tomorrow is set. We see a tie for 4th. Elias, is it by PDGA number that will be decided?
It will be by who has the harder round 2, and after that only the PDGA number. So whoever shot the best score out of the tied 4th will be on our lead card. Thank you guys so much for watching. Yeah, what to expect in the 3rd round?
Action, excitement, and ultimately your first DGPT Europe champion of 2024. Like, comment, subscribe, and make sure not to miss the 3rd and final round. Elias, thank you very much.
Thank you, Connor.